How does Anta's Fitness and Self-Defense School implement stretching in their classes? Find out in episode part 6 of Julio Anta's interview. Hear about Tai Chi, Pilates, extreme functional training, martial arts stretching, including Indian club training and kettlebell training for stretching. Here he is, Julio Anta.
All martial arts have flexibility. Some of the martial arts kicks will stretch you. Like, it depends on the style, axe kick, limbering up kick. It's just the leg straight and just throw it straight up and down. That's a stretch in itself, but it's also a kick. To be able to kick high, you need flexibility. To be able to do a lot of the martial arts posture, especially Kung Fu, that has all the twisting, you need flexibility. So every Kung Fu class starts with stretching. Depending on the level, it depends the type of stretching we do. All of them start with static stretching. Yet, with some of the more advanced kids, we go into Indian club training, which is also stretching. And we go into the Shaolin physical conditioning. Then, with the adults, we do the Indian clubs. Then I have the class and the traditional stretching. I have pictures of kids, adults, stretching, doing a complete split, doing a split on chairs, and doing split on gymnastic rings that look like the Van Damme, you know, when he opens up. Real impressive. I have a woman in her 30s that was finally able to do her split on the rings, which is impressive, and another man in his late 20s or early 30s doing it on chairs. So at any age, flexibility will increase. I have people that are older doing, maybe not doing splits, but touching the palms of their hands. It's just not giving up and just going slowly. Now, in my wife's Pilates class, it's all flexibility. Pilates is you work your core as you stretch your limbs. And that's why Pilates is so good for therapy and to get rid of pain, and just gives you that tall look, makes you walk straight. It teaches you posture. I have a Tai Chi instructor that also, all their preliminary moves are flexibility. Their breathing moves are flexibility, twisting while they're breathing, and things like that. And then in my XFT, my Extreme Functional Training class, which is a complete functional class, and we use all different things that we can think of that are functional. We start with a traditional martial arts stretch. We finish with a martial arts, semi-yoga, Pilates stretching, and in between we work the Indian clubs. This Indian clubs works your flexibility with circular strength. We work the kettlebells. A lot of the kettlebell ballistic moves, you need flexibility. There's even one move, the windmill, that some people call iron yoga, that you need a lot of flexibility. So you're holding the kettlebell up and you're just twisting down into a yoga-looking pose with the kettlebell. And then the thing with kettlebells is that we want you to open up your mind and make up things. I've done stretching moves with the kettlebells to strengthen, and mixed like squat with a side hurdler stretch and
I wanted to ask,
like that.
if you're not flexible, can you still do martial arts without being flexible?
Yes, but it's harder. And here's the thing. And this is what I tell people. As we age, you start losing flexibility.
Right.
If you were an unflexible person and you start martial arts, you're going to get more flexible. Now, will martial arts work without flexibility? Reality-based self-defense will. Will you be able to look good in a style like Taekwondo or Wushu? No. Taekwondo is all high kicks. You need good flexibility to put your leg up there. Wushu is high kicks with acrobatics, and they'll even spin in the air and drop in a split. You couldn't do good Wushu. But could you learn to defend yourself without good flexibility? Sure you can. Strike to the eyes, rip testicles, break knees. But just to practice, you need to be, we're going to stretch you anyway, because you need to be loose and not pull a muscle. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention is the myth of muscularity and flexibility. And that's when I was a competitive bodybuilder, I've always had back pain. So one of my vertebrae that would move full, and I didn't know that until maybe 10 years ago why I always had back pain. So sometimes I couldn't even squat, and I had sciatic nerve problem. So what would I do? I would stretch. As a body, at that time, the only people that stretched were yoga people. We're talking about, I started bodybuilding in the 70s. The only people that stretched were people that did yoga. PIlates wasn't even known, that it was around, but it wasn't known. And martial artists, you could say. Yet, as a bodybuilder, competitive bodybuilder, I would really freak people out because people would tell me you're muscle bound. And I would drop into what we in the martial arts call a split, but I think they're really called, I call them side splits with your toe up. I would literally drop into that with big legs and a big muscular body and drop down and touch my palms and do things that people will go, how can you do it if you're muscle bound? That's a fallacy. Muscle bound is if you start bodybuilding or weightlifting or something and you're very tight and you never stretch, sure you're going to be muscle bound. You already were, but now you got bigger muscles, it's going to be harder. But if you flex, look at these Ultimate Fighters today. They look bigger than some bodybuilders. Yet, you see the positions they get put in and they work out stretching a lot. Today, most athletes today, in my days, which was another fallacy and I knew better, oh no, martial artists don't work out with weights. You know what? There are better things than weights, like kettlebells, Indian clubs. But it's better to work out with the weights and be flexible and do your flexibility stuff, because now you're going to be strong and flexible, than it is not to. So that's a fallacy that I see, that big muscles. Remember, there was a guy named Tom Platz. He was Mr. Universe. At his time, he had the biggest legs in the industry, bigger than the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Even though Arnold would beat him in other competition, he had the biggest legs. And that guy would literally have pictures of him touching his palms on the ground and putting his head between his legs with those huge, the biggest legs in bodybuilding then. And then, might have not been as big, but he was still a muscular man. You would see Jean-Claude Van Damme in the 80s, I think 80s and 90s, you know, tied up to a rope, opening up and fighting and dropping in a split. So flexibility is, as I said earlier, one of the things you need for optimal fitness, and it should be together. The other problem we have as we age is our spine starts fusing, so you need to be flexible. A lot of the reasons old people break bones and fall, one is lack of balance, and two is lack of flexibility. When you see somebody, if you start thinking about it, what makes a person look old? Sometimes the way they walk. You see old people, they do this little, and it's because their hips are tight. And as we get older, it will happen. I got so many injuries right now. I'm recuperating from a back injury. I have an abductor pull, and my hips are tighter today from all the years of kicking. But I feel I don't have the flexibility that I had in my teens, 20s, 30s, and even 40s. Yet I'm still flexible, even though right now least flexible that I've been in years, because when you're fighting an injury, you start losing flexibility. But that's how you know how important stretching and flexibility is. When you get an injury, then now everything starts tightening up everywhere. But you know, the older we get, the more we need to stretch. That's why a lot of people go into Tai Chi. But Tai Chi is great, but there's more than Tai Chi. I saw a picture in the 70s in a magazine of an old, I think it was Tai Chi, some kind of Kung Fu Tai Chi master, something that I can't conceive. He had his chin, his foot straight out and on the ground, and his chin touching his toes. I mean, I've never seen anybody of any age do that. And this guy could do that. You know, so the thing was, he must have started young and never stopped. That's why you see these yoga gurus, old beards, gray beards like this, doing things that I can't do, and most, even other flexible people can't do. Flexibility is a lifestyle. Life is about making certain things a lifestyle, like eating healthy, training, and whatever you like to train in, to stay fit, and stretching.